Welcome aboard the RSS commentary on Saturday, August 7th, 2021. I am the captain, Cale McCollough, and in today's top story, scientists discover dead zones along both U.S. coasts where nothing can live. And the Taliban takes over a second Afghan city after the U.S. pullout. B-52 bombers have been sent in. And democracy in the United States is so fragile that the My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell, is the biggest threat. He could destroy democracy as we know it. RSS Commentary is an indie news organization. You can find us at rsscommentary.com, where you can find links to our socials, our YouTube channel, and you can watch the videos. You can also make a donation at rsscommentary.com/donate. And in... Oops. Sorry, I'm still figuring this out. Oops. In our top story, coming at you from Hacker News Best through the Atlantic, it says, scientists make a shocking discovery of dead zones where nothing can live on two coasts. And this is apparently because of climate change or something. Or at least that's what the picture lends it to believe. Oh, sorry. This isn't from the Atlantic. This is from the Hill. I'm sorry. That was the next article. It says dead zones developed when, quote, excess nutrients, end quote, from cities and farms drain, quote, runoff, end quote, into the water, decaying algae and eventually making the area uninhabited for most marine life. I've been trying to tell people about this for a while. This whole like global warming scam that people... They get really upset if you question global warming science. They're like, how can you question the science? The earth is going to end if you don't do anything. You can't, you got to be stupid, man. How can you not believe the scientists? All the scientists, they signed a letter. Okay. So yeah, they signed a letter, but like, do they still endorse that letter? Turns out that's not actually true. The temperature increase that they're measuring everything from is this 1.5 degree temperature change is from what is called the Little Ice Age. And this is a temperature period that's caused by solar activity. It's like goes in a cycle when the Earth goes farther and away, gets more solar energy from the sun by going farther and closer away. And so the temperature now is about the same temperature as it's been through most of humanity's existence. So the temperature really isn't actually the problem. CO2 is plant food. If you go back thousands of years, there's a lot more CO2 in the atmosphere. But the real problem that we have here is that there's mass amount of pollution from overconsumption, right? So like global warming absolutely does not have to be real in order for you to take action on mass pollution in the ocean, because there's a lot of this is due to meat production and from the phosphate rock it's a lot like fracking. So there's like this phosphate rock in the ground, and somebody figured out that you could frack the phosphate rock with water and get the phosphate out of it, and then you could use it for fertilizer. And so this was revolutionary. It caused the world's population to explode. And we're growing all these crops to feed the animals and using fertilizers for it, and then all of this waste is dumping into the ocean. And I've been trying to warn people for a long time about this, but people just don't understand exactly what it is. And then I personally think that we're living in a computer simulation. So when you think that you're living in a computer simulation, you have to wonder, when I throw the trash away, like the compostable materials, like, do they actually simulate the trash in the trash can too? It's a question that you have to ask yourself, because it is really actually an existential question to our existence in the computer simulation. Do they simulate the trash? Right? I know it sounds crazy, but it's like, I founded this thing called the Church of the Infinite, Church of Infinite Infinite Simulations. Sorry, I can't talk right now. And so we got a lot of theories on this. If you want to contribute, it is on GitHub. Just look up Church of Infinite Simulations or infinitesimulations.github.io. So what does this story say? It says scientists surveying the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico discovered a dead zone that was equivalent to more than 4 million acres of habitat. Typically, dead zones cover around 5,400 square miles. But the hypoxic zone near the Gulf this year measured approximately 6,334 square miles. That's really bad. So there's also this, and then there's also the trash in the ocean. So this stuff will clear up. Like the fertilizers that we dumped in there aren't like, if you spread it out all throughout the ocean, it would be plant food. But when it's in these large concentrations near the river deltas, then it piles up. It makes these really bad areas of algae and other toxic materials that feed on the phosphate material and other fertilizers. And so how can we address this? I don't like to just complain about things. One thing that you could start doing is by growing your own food. Definitely reducing your meat intake is going to be very beneficial to you. This is not, bad advice at all. Personally, I think that if we don't eat the animals that, we've domesticated these animals for so long, it's like making them go extinct. And animals out in the wild just get eaten. So when we eat animals, it's not actually as bad as when other animals eat animals. I'm not sure whether or not that justifies it, but it sure does make the meat taste better. Mm-hmm. So the other thing we could do is we could stop trying to think that we're going to buy electric cars to save us from global warming. The fact is that 75% of CO2 emissions come from 5% of coal-fired power plants. And a lot of these power plants are in China. Sorry, I'm looking for the story. So there's not really much that we can do about this except for stop buying stuff from China. Most of the wealthy countries have taken a lot of measures to reduce the pollution. The big polluters are the poor people, who we would give a pass on all these environmental regulations because it would be economically devastating to them. So most of the trash in the ocean is coming from a small number of villages that live around major rivers in India, China, and Africa. So there's not really much that us Americans can do. We've taken all of the steps that we need to. This is why Trump pulled us out of the Paris Accords, because they were really it was a poison pill, because we already did everything, and then they're expecting us to do all this stuff because Uncle Sam's Mr. Moneybags. And the China is there. What they want to do is they want to dismantle all the manufacturing in the United States and send it over to China, so China can be the world's #1 superpower. So this should keep you up at night, what China's doing, because there could be a large-scale war. China's amping up their stockpile of nuclear weapons with the latest, greatest technologies that they use their spies to steal from America. And it's like, what are they building? Like 200 nuclear missile silos right now, like doubling their amount of nukes. And they're going to be the modern ones, ICBM. So everybody in America is going to be in the crosshairs. And we have been jacking them up on steroids with our policies, with our allowance of the Chinese Nazi Party. They say they're communists, but they have a top-down cult of state rule by elites and oligarchs system, which is by definition fascism. It's definitely far right. It's definitely authoritarian. They allow capitalism there as long as it serves the purpose of the Chinese quote unquote communist / Nazi party, then you can do it. But the moment they want to use that in order to, for the state, for their military apparatus, then they're allowed to seize it from you. That is the definition of fascism. That's literally the definition of fascism. But our dictionaries and our Wikipedia have definitions of fascism and communism that aren't what they are in reality. And more than likely, almost certainly, we've been infiltrated by spies that have, Wikipedia too has been under the control of hostile foreign powers through corporations that are allied with China, corporations that do a lot of business. Most of big media is owned by Hollywood and corporations that make a lot of money in China. For example, CNN's owned by Turner. Turner is Hollywood. MSNBC, NBC are owned by Comcast. Comcast owns DreamWorks. DreamWorks operates a theme park in China that is the size of Disney World Shanghai. ABC's owned by Disney. So there's all of the trails for big media go back to China. If they want to continue this large revenue stream that they're making from China, they're not allowed to criticize the Chinese Nazi Party. They can't criticize the genocide in Xinjiang of the Uyghur Muslims and other denominations of Muslims. They cannot criticize the authoritarian takeover of fifth wave feminism, right? Fifth wave feminism is when fourth wave feminism allies with hostile foreign powers like China, and they start targeting the white males in order to do proxy warfare or non-conventional warfare to target the white males, because that's the majority of the fighting age men in the United States that provide the backbone of the United States economy. So if you target these people, it's a group of people that is vulnerable, that when you target them, it causes lots of damage. And this is what the Black Lives or the critical race theory people don't understand about what they're doing, is that white people don't actually have white privilege. Like, if white privilege means that most black people and Latinos are actually, most black people in the United States live in big cities, and they're controlled by Democrats. So they're trying to say there's systemic racism, but they don't go outside of their city a lot. So they have no idea whether or not there's actually systemic racism. It's just that the Democrats that are in control don't want to take responsibility for all of their failures. They don't want to say, hey, look, the teachers union, they don't fire bad teachers. They just shuffle them around. They don't have any sort of incentive to give you a good product. They're run by a bunch of incompetent people who have a union that it has been hijacked utilized for political purposes. And so vast majority of people, they don't pay attention to politics. And then you got these public sector employee unions that like basically they're like professional politicians. Like they are like the rent is so damn high in most of these big cities that people just move out because they can't afford the rent. They move there for a job in the big city, working for one of these big companies, and they work all day. And then after years, they slowly start to realize that they're never going to make it in this city because the rent is so damn high. And there's so many homeless people banging cartel dope that they're getting from the illegal immigrants that Biden and Harris are funneling in here by the millions. And that it's just not livable in these big cities. So they can't admit this. They can't say, look, the Republicans are right about the charter schools. They're right about illegal immigration. They were right about the wall. They were right about the tax cuts. Those were like the only thing that saved our economy when COVID hit us, because when you don't allow the government to waste your money, people can use it in much more efficient ways. That it's like a freight train that whenever there's a problem like COVID is really, really, really hard to slow that freight train down because the government hasn't been wasting all of the people's money. Getting, like Biden wants to like spend what, $6 trillion this year. This guy's insane. When Barack Obama took office, the debt was just a little bit over $10 trillion. Okay. And this guy wants to spend almost that amount of money just this year. He wants to take the money and give it away to special interests, to all of the cronies that helped him do election engineering with big tech, with the shadow campaign that quote unquote saved the 2020 election. The one that, controlled all of the choke points of information, that made Trump look horrible, that utilized the Russiagate hoax in order to control the political narrative around the entire country without you knowing. Yeah, that group of people that censors you, that causes hate against you, because when they censor you, it causes people to come after you if they think you broke the rules, to ostracize you, to attack you on the internet, and then they're propped up while Facebook puts the hammer down on you because you said the election F word. So let's move on to this next article. I'm spending a little bit too much time on this one. Sorry. Still trying to figure out these keyboard shortcuts. Where is it? Shoot. Damn it. Sorry. I have no idea why that's doing that. In this next article from Hacker News, U.S. unleashes B-52s in bid to stem Taliban advance. This is coming at you from the times.co.uk. American B-52 bombers and Spectre gunships have been sent into action against Taliban to try to stop the insurgents' march on 3 key cities. The return of the B-52 Stratofortress after at least a year's hiatus is the clearest sign yet that the Pentagon is being forced to intensify daily sorties, not only to halt the Taliban, but also to help the struggling Afghan Air Force. The Taliban yesterday overran Zaran and Nimroz, a southwest province bordering Iran, making it the first provincial capital to fall since foreign troops began their withdrawal since the capital, Kabul. The insurgents assassinated Dwa Khan Matpal, the government's chief media officer. If you'd like to check out more of that article, you can hit us up at rsscommentary.com/issue 137, where I'll be posting all the links to these articles after the show. Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe! In this next article from Hacker News, the My Pillow guy really could destroy democracy. This is from The Atlantic. When you contemplate the end of democracy in America, what kind of person do you think will bring it about? Well, I'm reasonably sure most people who they would write this news for the audience would assume that the person would be orange and that he would be a misogynist, a xenophobe, a sexist, a racist, and every other bad label that you would like to attach to your political enemies because you have no real argument in response to them. Maybe you picture a sinister billionaire in a bespoke suit because you think that rich people are bad, slipping brown envelopes to politicians because you think that Republicans are corrupt and Democrats are saint. Maybe your nightmare is a rogue general hijacking the nuclear football. Maybe you think that Trump is a Russian agent. Maybe you think of a jackbooted thug leading a horde of men in white sheets carrying burning crosses saying, "Jews will not replace us. Trump, Trump." Here is what you probably don't imagine, an affordable, self-made Midwesterner, one of those goofy businessmen who makes his own infomercials, a recovered crack addict, no less, who laughs good-naturedly when jokes are made at his expense. Are they talking about Hunter Biden? Okay, so Hunter Biden's a crackhead, right? You know, China Joe Biden's son. Where's Hunter Biden from? Oh yeah, they're from oops. Sorry. Hunter Biden. Where was he born? He was born in Delaware. Okay, so they're not talking about Hunter Biden. A man who will talk to anyone willing to listen, and to many who aren't, a philanthropist, a good boss, a patriot, or so she says, who may well be doing more damage to American democracy than anyone since Jefferson Davis. I met Mike Lindell, the CEO of My Pillow, in a recording studio that occupies the basement of Steve Bannon's stately Capitol Hill townhouse a few blocks from the Supreme Court, the same day Supreme Court that will, according to Lindell, decide 9-0 in favor of reinstating Trump to the presidency sometime in August or possibly September. Well, if he was right, then that would have been true. Whether or not he's right never really went to court. I'm not a judge. I don't really pretend to know these things. I made it through the entirety of Trump presidency without once having to meet Bannon, but here he was recording his War Room podcast with Lindell. Bannon, but here Bannon has been decomposing in front of our eyes for some years now. Yeah, he definitely was gaining some weight. He's getting older. I might have to agree with that statement, but I used to hate Steve Bannon back when I had Trump derangement syndrome a long time ago. Back before I knew how economies worked and how the Constitution worked and how the elections were through mail-in voting have been engineered. And then I learned about how the media has been gaslighting America with a bunch of fake news, clickbait, rage bait, fembait in order to cause you to turn on your fellow American, to sabotage your country so that China can rise up to be the number one superpower. And I remember the day that I realized that the Republicans weren't the bad guys was, I remember watching an Antifa race riot, and there was a bunch of Trump supporters in superhero costumes, and I'm like, yeah, go Antifa, kick their ass, right? Yeah, these guys are horrible. These are like racist, white supremacists. And then I started looking closer at these guys, right? I'm like, in the superhero costumes. And then I recognized, I'm like, man, these Antifa guys are a bunch of pussies. These guys in the superhero costumes, like, they look like the good guys. And then I started looking into it, and they were actually the good guys. The Antifas were, in fact, actually a bunch of socialist punk pussies. And they did, in fact, get their ass handed to them. And in fact, this is a repeating pattern that is destined to repeat itself because of how beta these feminist males are, because of their chopping off of their penis so that they can put all of the woman's needs before their own, so that they can be used for a source of money by women who really don't care about them and are only really with them because it's convenient. And they will leave them at whenever it is inconvenient or at the first convenience, so they can monkey branch up to a higher quality man. And then eventually they make it up to the top. And then they get to Donald Trump and they're like, oh, he's a billionaire. I wanted to have my baby. Grab me by the pussy. And then Donald Trump brags about it. And then the media wants to get those clicks. They got to get that money. So they gaslight you to think that Donald Trump is a misogynist because the guys are so beta that they don't even know that the girls that they're putting on the pedestal are actually raw dogging it with most of the guys with cool vacation and lifestyle pics that show that they have high status and money in the bank. And while this might make you cry because you thought that the women were these perfect angels, fear not. Fear not. Because if she don't want your seed, you have no need. Right? This is really the fundamental problem with our society, is that it's run by a bunch of pussies that don't know how to be a man with women. Their model is going to be the feminist males like Keanu Reeves, who are ghost arming the girls because he doesn't want to get a sexual harassment claim. And then the rest of the guys take this as cue. They're like, oh, the celebrities, they said that we should treat women respectfully, which means that you don't try to hit on them, and you avoid getting with them because you don't want to get a sexual harassment or false rape accusation. But you know what's going to destroy democracy? Mike Lindell. This guy, the guy who nobody's ever proven him to be wrong in a courtroom. You've only got a bunch of big media that says this guy's wrong, and then if you go look up why they say all of his election fraud claims are bunk, they say, hey, it's behind a paywall. If you want to know why Mike Lindell's claims are bunk, you got to subscribe to the newspaper, give them money, and then you can read it. Because I've never actually been able to read any sort of the documentations. As far as I know, Dr. Shiva is still in the courts, and the election audits have been frowned upon. They really don't want you to audit the voting system because they say that it's going to cause the Republicans to be able to cheat. They're going to suppress the black vote by forcing them to have an ID. But if you want to go out to a restaurant, now you're going to have to show your vaccine passport. So it's like it's like the rules are for thee. It's not for me. Because when they go out, they don't wear a mask. Until the cameras show up. Right? Because it's all just a show. Because the media is putting on this show. Because they're controlled by Democrats in big cities where these big media outlets operate. And they push this propaganda because in those places, they're in the party where the poor people in the big city are voting for, because they're trying to take away, they're trying to rob Peter to pay Paul to get the white feminist Mary to vote for the Democrats, because Peter is a white conservative male and he oppressed Paul. He screwed him over. Now Paul is not making as much money because his GPA isn't as good. So in order to get Mary to vote to win the election, you're going to need to take the money from Peter and give it to Paul to pay reparations for something that neither Peter or Paul's parents had anything to do, or grandparents or great-grandparents had anything to do with. So, what is the biggest threat to democracy? By far, the biggest threat to democracy is big media gaslighting you. They're controlled by Hollywood. They put out a false perception of reality in order to get clicks. They promote fear. They, like CNN in those Project Veritas interviews where they got busted saying that they're using COVID in order to drum up fear. That and fear is just good for ratings for these news organizations. What do they say? I don't know, fear sells or something like that. So, hey, let's move on to this next article here. I don't think that Mike Lindell is a threat to democracy. Whether or not he thinks the election was rigged, he has a right to that opinion. By auditing the election, we can prove this guy wrong, and then he'll be the laughingstock. But until then, Dr. V.A. Shiva, he still is in court for an election fraud case with Dominion voting systems. He hasn't been thrown out of court. He's survived numerous attempts to kick him out of court. He says that he has gotten a hold of the Fed's playbooks for how they're doing the elections, and that they've been engaging in election engineering. So this, don't talk about election fraud. This is the disinformation campaign that's designed to paint you as a far-right extremist. You need to talk about election engineering. Election engineering is voter fraud. Election engineering can occur through many ways. One of the ways that you can engage in election engineering is to say that there is a hostile foreign government like Russia that put a foreign asset, Donald Trump, into the White House, and that the guy's a spy, and so they've been rigging the elections by putting out using these troll farms in order to put out these memes, and these memes are going to cause our democracy to fall apart because it's that fragile, because we're a bunch of snowflakes. Then they can use this to, for example, the Attorney General for the state of California wrote a letter to the heads of the social media companies for Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. And they said, Kamala Harris used to be the Attorney General for California, so this is an office Kamala Harris sat on, wrote this email to these social media heads and said that there's a Russiagate committee, and they said there's Russian election interference in the election, and that they're trying to say that mail-in voting is dangerous, that it's causing fraud, and so they need to shut down any sort of criticism about mail-in voting. And mail-in voting is fraud. It causes you to vote at home with having less participation in democracy. You're voting around places where people have guns. There's more than one gun per every person in the United States. And so there are guns in the polling place, which is illegal. People can get kicked out of their house if they vote for Trump. They can engage in election engineering on social media through ballot harvesting by targeting you with targeted ads near the time when you're going to be putting in your ballot. And this is entirely illegal, but is incredibly easy to do on Facebook when you have insider access to all of America's data. You know more about them than they do. You can predict their movements and their product purchases and their medical conditions using this big data, where they know before they do, or sorry, they know before you know when you have a new medical disease. And they're saying, no, you can't rig elections with this, but that, you can engineer an election with that. That's the problem with what these people are doing, is they're pulling the wool over your eyes. They're using words that are kind of like the words that we're supposed to use, but false because they're not the correct words. The word that you're supposed to use is so different. It's not election fraud, it's election engineering. But by the FBI okay, so wait, let me back up here. The January 6th riot, which is shameful, of course. The FBI knew in advance that this was going to happen. The people who organized it worked for the FBI. When the riots were happening, the FBI was there with undercover agents. They did not warn Trump that the riot was going to happen. They knew it was going to happen. They warned Nancy Pelosi, the U.S. House Senate Intelligence Committee. They notified the U.S. Capitol Police. The U.S. Capitol Police were run by Black Lives Matter people. They said, no, we don't want to have the police there. And then the FBI is all around the place whenever the riot happened. And then they got that Governor Gretchen Whitmer situation where the FBI is literally getting people to kidnap the governor so that they can use this as some sort of like reason to do some sort of operation that they're doing. God knows in what their purpose was. Maybe they got a bunch of crackpots that they've been hiring as informants. Who they hired them as informants because they were doing drugs, and then they were good informants, and then they got some power, and then they did this. Maybe could be something like that, right? But it definitely seems as though the FBI has a pattern of doing this, not only now but also throughout history with the Iran-Contra, with bringing in massive amounts of crack cocaine into the ghetto to get the black people strung out on crack so that they could pass whatever policies that they wanted to, like the 1994 crime bill. And then they see, this is the problem, and this is why you should think that the FBI set us up on January 6th, is because it completely devastates our political opinion. Any sort of talk about election engineering, election fraud. You've now been labeled as a far-right conspiracy theorist, lunatic, who is a danger to America. You're a QAnon, Trump-supporting white supremacist, alt-right, white nationalist. You're like all the bad words cooked up in the book. And all of the roads all end up leading back to Wikipedia. Because where are these people getting these kooky definitions of far right? They're getting it from Wikipedia. Wikipedia is controlled by corporate interest. Wikipedia is controlled by government agents governments who hire people to be on Wikipedia full time. The spy agencies do surveillance on Wikipedia. They use Wikipedia to control narratives, to distribute disinformation, to combat disinformation from other hostile foreign governments. So this stuff is, Wikipedia needs to be looked at like the national security danger that it is. It's a propaganda outlet. It's been pushing all these crazy, weird ideas of what far right is. Like, far right means that you believe in top-down authoritarian structures where there's like dictators, where there's like a communist party that says they're communist, and then they have corporations like in China where they're allowing corporations to make profits off the workers, and they got the party members got billions of dollars in privately held assets overseas from the corporations that they're allowed to operate. And then like if they got concentration camps, pretty much counts as far right. But then they're saying that like the definition of far right is like some conservative white guy who doesn't believe in feminism, so that means he's a misogynist, and that he's like a danger because he is like a QAnon conspiracy theory, and like Jeffrey Epstein never existed. There's no pictures of Bill Clinton aboard Lolita Express, right? There's no trail going back to Bill Gates, which then is going to go to the Clintons again. And but that's, it's like it's a perfect storm. Now, it could have been completely accidental, that it just so happened it was a perfect storm, and everything just randomly occurred by that. But it does appear as if there's a faction of the Democrats who are allied with corporations, because the corporations run these big cities that the Democrats control. And the corporations, along with the public sector employee unions, have complete control over the Democratic Party. And these corporations do a lot of business in China. They are using Chinese funny money, where the Chinese businesses, they're all cooperative with each other. They're not competitive with each other like in the United States. And they utilize the Chinese military and intelligence in order to do spy operations, to do IP theft, so that the Chinese can rob, replicate, and replace our economy to take out the United States as the world's #1 superpower. And the Democrats are completely on board with this. They're completely on board on this because they're bought by corporations, because they exist in big cities where these large corporations exist, and where the Chinese Nazi Party has many thousands of agents in that city doing business through Chinese Nazi Party controlled companies, and just doing direct spy work, or they are coming over here to purchase up large amounts of property so that they can become the ruling class, because they're trying to do a fascist power grab. So none of this is the biggest threat to democracy, right? It's not China using corruption to take out all of our media and our cultural institutions, to attack the white people by sending fentanyl over to kill us, as using it as a chemical weapon by shipping the precursors of the fentanyl to Mexico, where the cartels then turn it into methamphetamines, and then they smuggle it into the United States through the Biden-Harris open border crisis on the southern border that's causing so many deaths and mass murders of migrants, drug overdoses, billions of dollars of damages. They're smuggling in enough fentanyl to kill everybody in the country, right? And then when all these illegal immigrants then flood into the big cities, it then causes their children to overwhelm. First off, they and their children jack up the price of the rent in the big cities. They say there's systemic racism, and then because the rent is so damn high in the cities that it's already so bad, and then they want to pack in millions more illegal immigrants who are doing human and drug smuggling, that are killing off their children, family members, with parents with drugs, with fentanyl. And none of this is the threat to democracy. You know what is the threat to democracy? Conservative white males. Those guys who keep talking about the Constitution and free speech and fighting censorship. Those are the people who are the problem. Those are the ones. You got to take care of those people. Those are the people pushing those conservative values that are an existential threat to the Democrats' control on power. Right? Those people. The ones that are preventing the Democrats from having complete control. So the Democrats then flood the country with illegal immigrants, and they bust them into the big cities so that they can jack up the population of these large cities to be so much higher than the rest of the population, which is mostly white, so that it drowns out the white people's votes, so that they never, ever again are ever able to have any sort of say in federal politics. It's a winner-take-all situation. And then once this happens, mark my words, they will show their true colors as Chinese agents. They do not support America. They are against Americans. They do work for China. They do, because they're corrupt. They've been corrupted by the corporations who, and the Chinese government, they do not allow feminism on their internet. They shut it down on social media, and then they come over to the United States and they promote it. They don't allow illegal immigration in China, but then they promote illegal immigration in the United States. You need to observe these patterns. These patterns are existential for you to monitor, which is why I am developing Wiki Spy. It's a open source Chrome plugin that will highlights any sort of propaganda, including Chinese state propaganda. So you'll be seeing that here pretty soon. Going back to get my master's degree as soon as this fall. So we'll see. I'm ready to go. Hey, I'm talking too long on this article here. Let's move on to this next one. Hey, in this next article from Hacker News, NASA is looking for people who want to spend a year simulating a mission to Mars. This is coming at you from The Blaze. The Blaze is what's up. If you don't know about The Blaze, these guys, I used to think they were demons. I thought they were these like white nationalist, racist bigots. And then it turns out I was completely wrong. And they're like way cool. Actually, they're some of my favorite people now. NASA is calling for applicants interested in spending a year in a 1,700 square foot habitat meant to help study what it will be like for future explorers to live on the surface of Mars. While participants would not need to strap into a rocket and blast off into the final frontier, they would help pave the way for the future of space exploration, all without ever leaving the ground. I personally have always dreamt about us having underground space research colonies underneath the ocean where we could utilize tidal energy to power everything, because it's right next to the coast, so it's really easy to get to and from. You don't have to have the hatch underwater. You could just go out through some normal stairs or a ladder or something. But because you would be able to be self-sufficient with the power, it provides an invaluable research opportunity. Because we do need to know how to exist in these tin cans, essentially these souped up tin cans out in space for long periods of time, because we are going to space. It is actually a thing. I personally, one of my dreams, I'm a computer engineer. I run a company called Kabuki Starship. And so I want to build these little darts that we can blast to other planets with lasers. So you get a solar sail and you hit it with a laser, and then you take these other ships and you make a path. You find a planet that you can habitat. So you send a whole bunch of these darts over to the other planet that you're blasting with lasers with a solar sail, and the darts go to this planet. And they got these like little transformer thing that like come off, and they like, it's like an interstellar dart that injects human DNA into life on that planet. And it's like in the movies, you know, where like an alien infected you and then you like turn into an alien. And I got the idea because human DNA was like some large percentage of our DNA is a DNA virus from back when humans were still evolving. A DNA virus almost killed all of humanity. And so there's markers of this virus in our DNA. And it could be that it was one of these interstellar darts that injected human DNA into like the neck of an ape. And that like we can't, like we're the Anunnakis or something. We're like hybrid Anunnaki primates or something. Could be. It actually is a decent probability chance. More than likely we're in a supercomputer simulation. The chance that we're not in a supercomputer simulation is actually pretty much zero. There's these new things coming out next year called photonic neural nets. You've probably seen Star Trek. You've seen like Data, the android brain. That is running, those positronic brains are running on photonic neural nets, which are, it sounded actually, I think they just kind of made it up. I don't think they knew what they were talking about, but it actually turned out to be one of the fastest ways to do it. It's not even not even sci-fi at all. It's like basically they're using the light as a multiplier. So like you've got a neural network, and then it does some processing, some matrix operations, and it basically multiplies some neural network weights by a value based upon your activation functions. And then if it gets over a certain threshold, then it triggers the neural network. So this is completely easy to do with light. So you got a bunch of laser diodes, and they put out light. And then at the end, you essentially just measure how much light it is. It's relatively simple, actually. It's like you got a bunch of photodiodes, and then it's a bunch of lasers, and it can tell you how many lasers are on, essentially. So these things are like 100 times faster than GPUs per watt. And they're coming out next year. We also have the quantum computers. And then we have a new manufacturing process coming out in the next year and a half for microprocessors that is 10 times smaller than our current size, which is huge. They don't get the exponential power savings. The power efficiency doesn't scale linearly. As far as I'm aware, I don't know about this new process, but you would think making it smaller, you're going to get more power efficient, and then you can go more faster. No, you get more, it's like less power efficient. So it sounds like we're about to see a massive, huge revolution. We've got that RISC-V chip. There's potentials to make conscious general purpose AI utilizing lasers or some sort of other device to power light emitting substances. So you could take a substance that when you put a laser on it, that substance can emit a charge. And so you can turn this into your neural network lattice. And so there's possibilities that you could possibly actually make conscious AI entities through putting a bunch of these light emitting materials into a neural network. And then it can simulate the neural activity of our brain, because that's essentially the way your brain's working. Is you got some cells that have some electrical impulses. And like the cells, there's nothing really like special about the cells over like a plant cell, other than the fact that it's like got an electrical charge that's like pulsing. And then it's kind of like Morse code, where it's able to like create something bigger, a gestalt, like take a sum of all the parts and then create a conscious entity. This is some work that I'm personally working on. If anybody wants to fund my work, you can make a donation over at rsscommentary.com/donate. You can make a donation via PayPal. Go check out The Blaze. Check out Eliza Schaefer. That guy's awesome. I really like that guy. He's actually not a demon, as people say he is. He's actually a Christian guy. He's got good morals, and he's nothing that people say that he is. These Blaze Media people are pretty legit good people. Definitely don't have any sort of ideas in my head that they're like some alt-right people. It's like that's just not true. Like, that was a lie. It was never true. Here in this next article from The Hill, majority of New Yorkers think Cuomo should resign and face charges. Roughly 7 in 10 New Yorkers think that Cuomo should resign following the release of the state attorney general's bombshell report showing that Cuomo sexually harassed like a creeper several women, according to a new Quinnipiac University poll. Quinnipiac University is this like liberal arts college. So like anything that you can hear from these people is going to be a bunch of bullshit. You can trust Quinnipiac polls as much as you can trust NPR. which is a little bit more than you can trust Forbes. Forbes is owned by China. It operates out of Hong Kong. It's Chinese state propaganda. They've been pushing Trump derangement syndrome articles to gaslight people to try to affect our political system by convincing you that there's like some Russiagate conspiracy, that Trump's a foreign asset and that he is the biggest threat to democracy. So you got to like race riot and burn the country down in the middle of the pandemic while we're already having extreme financial problems. You got to burn down all of the businesses in the hood so that the black people don't have any jobs, because that's the way that you're going to solve systemic racism. You know, it makes you wonder, how can these people actually be this stupid? Because you're not actually dreaming. It's not a parody skit. It's actually reality. It's Earth in 2021. Because you're in a computer simulation. We took the videos that were on YouTube. We took our AI device that I was telling you a moment ago about how you can create conscious AI entities. And we used it to simulate Earth in 2021. And I was a host of this show called RSS Commentary. So this is why I exist in this simulation, because I had enough videos and that they thought I was entertaining enough that they kept me around. So now I'm blowing your mind here on YouTube. So this Cuomo guy's a creep. I mean, we've always known this guy's pretty creepy, you know. See, he's definitely an alpha male. I mean, you can't deny this guy is El Cock. It is true. He's definitely the alpha. The problem is these Democrats are beta male feminists. They're like pussy whoop. They let the women control. And so the women don't actually want to lead. They actually want the men to lead. But the men aren't leading. Instead, they're saying, no, we can't put our hands on her. We can't hit on her. Can't kiss her. We can't grab her by the pussy, because this is sexual harassment. And they're going to come after you. They're going to put the hammer down, and you're going to be canceled. You're going to be Me Too. You're never going to work in this town again. They're going to come after you. They're going to put you on the no-fly list with your family. And you're never going to work in this town again, because you're a racist white person. You got white privilege. You don't deserve it. You use your white privilege in inappropriate ways to oppress the women and the minorities in the big cities. It's the alt-right white nationalist, white conservatives who live in those poor rural red states. These are the ones that are holding down the minorities in the big Democrat-run cities. It's them. It's people like me. I'm in a big Democrat-run city. I am the person who's oppressing all of the black people in Oregon. It's me. I actually went into their paycheck. I utilized my good old boys network. I went in through some cronies that I know, and I went in and I took the money from other black people. I underpaid them. Yeah, they were actually getting full pay until me and my crony network came, and then we victimized them because we're the oppressors. You see, because I'm the big bad wolf. I'm coming to huff and puff, blow your house down. I'm coming to oppress your daughter. Yep. I'm gonna lock her up, making sure she can't vote. I'm gonna put a burqa on her. I'm going to give it a D. Yeah, that was the one that you wanted. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I got pictures. She's dirty, bro. But when you're a politician, you cannot do these things. You cannot raw dog it. You can only do it if you're like Trump. Because then you could just grab her by the pussy, because these girls are coming up to all the rich dudes saying, hey, you're rich, I want to have your baby so I can spend all your money. But you can't talk about it because these guys are feminist beta males. So if you actually talk about being a man, they're going to come after you because you are part of the patriarchy that is putting the glass ceiling on the women's head. You are making it so that the white feminists in the Democrat-run corporations cannot go to the top. You are forcing her to be a baby factory. It's because you're white and you're a male is the reason why she's taking on that D and popping babies. Oh. This means you're a bad person because you're heteronormative. Because you heteronormative people make more money than the LGBTQ 2CI, CBD, EFG, HIJK, elemental P people. They said you've misgendered all 1,278 of the genders currently right now. They ran out of single letters, so they are now using a 4-digit code. But just remember, equal pay, that means that the men and the women are going to come away with the same amount of money. Because the guys are not going to spend their money on the women when they're in college and they're super hot and they're showing off their titties on Instagram. No, if you pay men and women the same, what's going to happen is that the men aren't going to spend the money on the women, and the women are going to spend the money on the men equally. There's no women who are going to be milking men by going on dates with all kinds of dudes on Tinder because they're perfect angels. And I got a bridge downtown for sale. If you want to make a donation at rsscommentary.com/donate, this bridge can be yours. What else? Hey, China article. What else do we got for a scene? I think this one's good. In this next article from Hacker News Best, Swiss PhD students' dismissal spotlights China's influence. This is from... Sorry, I can't read their font. Let me go to their webpage. I don't want to not tell you where the article's coming from. This nzz.ch, which I'm presuming is Czechoslovakia. From New Brusher Beersun. Sorry. It's nzz.ch. A Swiss PhD student tweeted critically about China. You can't say anything about them turning into fascists and them being Nazis, committing genocide against Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang, using slave labor to dominate the U.S. economy, to destroy the West so they could take over as the predominant hegemony, which means they're like the prevailing power. They're the most powerful people in the area. They control everything. Afterwards, his professor at the University of St. Gallen wanted nothing more to do with him, worried that her own ability to get a visa would be at risk. Yeah, that's bad. This image about sums it up. Yeah. The caption says a St. Gallen PhD student tweeted about China for a space of 10 days. It cost him 3 years worth of research work. When Oliver Gerber first heard that his tweets might cost him his future PhD, he was sitting in his old childhood bedroom. It was March 28, 2020 at 9:50 p.m. An email had appeared in Gerber's mailbox from his doctoral supervisor at University of St. Gallen. The subject line read, "Very urgent, complaint from China about your tweet." Wow. This is why you should make a donation at rsscommentary.com/donate, because I personally am going back to engineering school, and there is a lot of China influence there. There's definitely a lot of Chinese professors. Like, one of the people who runs the program is from China. And I've been an outspoken critic of the Chinese Nazi Party. I put my neck on the line. So if you do want to donate, that would be great. An email appeared, I already read that. He opened the email on his smartphone. The professor had written that she had received angry emails from China. And that was in double brackets. Gerber was accused of spreading double bracket neo-Nazi-like content and double quote on Twitter. Right. So what is neo-Nazi-like content? Oh, like white nationalism, which means what? Oh, you're critical of the U.S. immigration policies. Right. So does China allow immigration to China? Illegal immigration? No, they don't allow illegal immigration to China at all. But China promotes illegal immigration to the United States. They say that the United States is racist for enforcing their border policies and kicking out illegal immigrants, even though every other country in the world, including Mexico, does it. Most of the illegal immigrants are from Mexico. Mexico kicks out illegal immigrants too. We're the only... See, it's like these beta male feminist dudes that are running these corporations are going to be the destruction of the West. They don't care about family values. They want women to give up having kids until their 30s to rise up the corporate ladder because they're dorks, nerds. They're pathetic with women, and they want to hang out with women at the workplace. So they want the women to not have kids and kill off their family line so that it can make them rich, so that they can justify not having a girlfriend and letting their penis rot. So what they're going to tell you here is neo-Nazi content is the stuff that if you oppose it, hold on. Neo-Nazi-like content is whatever they want to twist and morph in order to manipulate us to do what they want. So what they're going to say is they're a white nationalist. They said we have to enforce our immigration policies. They said build a wall. And then Cale said build the moat. Fill it with alligators, piranhas, electric eels, sharks with lasers on their heads. And then you put deadly animals like lions, tigers, bears, packs of dogs, hyenas, hippos. And then you put an amusement park right there, maybe near Tijuana, where people on both sides can go. And then we'll legalize drugs there. And we'll have some it'll be like roller coasters there. What? I'm sorry. So, but if you oppose, see, this is the kind of stuff that they would say this is like neo-Nazi content, because what they want to do is they want to smear anyone who criticized China, so I criticize China, I stick up for the things that make America strong, I oppose the things that make America weak. So that means that I am the person who is the target of the Chinese non-conventional warfare that they've been doing, where they have been utilizing hyper-customized psychological warfare. They've been gathering big data through apps like TikTok, Facebook, social media, and hacking, illegal, both sponsored by the government and through third parties that they pay. They are developing custom profiles of you so that they can deliver you custom psychological war operation weapons. Whatever those be. So an example of this is China bioengineers COVID as a bioweapon in order to bankrupt the world's economy so that they can be the world's number one superpower by piggybacking us, handicapping us, working with backdoor deals with corrupt corporations and Democrats so that they can do a 100-year plan back from World War II whenever they overthrew China. And so that they can also, allow the elites that are paid off in their network to be the ones who are going to have ultimate control whenever China has hegemony. So these people are basically paid off. And so if you oppose this, they're going to say this is neo-Nazi-like propaganda because Chinese are quote-unquote communist. And if you're against communists, that means that you are far right, according to Wikipedia. And this means that you are neo-Nazi-like. See how it works? That's how it works. I personally, when I discovered this stuff, I used an AI algorithm called A*, which is the shortest possible graph algorithm. And I was looking at the shortest possible graph to a world overthrow. And so I was looking at the state transition things, doing some engineering stuff. And then I noticed, hey, the shortest possible graph here is to play both sides. And once you start looking into the phase or the state change transition and what are the elements that must occur for this transition, you're going to start to see China all over the place. What they're doing is they got all these Chinese Nazi Party controlled companies. Chinese are not allowed to have private property. They're not allowed to exploit the fruits of the labor of the proletariat. Unless, of course, it's their enemy. Or if you want to bribe the Chinese Nazi Party bosses so you can utilize the slave labor in China for capitalist purposes. As long as you don't criticize the Chinese Nazi Party, you can utilize Chinese slaves to make profits on. In fact, actually, if you look around my house and my studio, I am living high on the hog on Chinese slave labor. Bro, these people have been slaving for me. They're like suckers, dude. These people think that they're going to piggyback us, right? But what they don't realize is that communism is just a parasite. The Chinese Communist Party is like a tick. And you can pop it at the head. And you can just watch that tick's brains just go. Because communism can't exist without capitalism because it doesn't work. And the only way it can exist is a commune within a capitalist system. And it won't last for long. it'll eventually turn into a dictatorship. It will turn into a far-right, top-down cultist state ruled by elites and oligarchs. And it's because people don't have incentives. They don't have profit motives. Without private property, you have no incentive to improve the property, to make a profit off of the sale, to generate value for another person, that you are then able to take some of this value and then keep some of it. They're utilizing our system in order to piggyback us through them not playing by our rules. So they come in, China has full access to the United States economy. They have full access to our universities, to our research, to our corporate IP through Chinese military and intelligence that does rob, replicate, and replace operations to steal U.S. And European IP so that they can generate build their own version of our economy and then replace ours. And then they want to dominate the entire world and they want everybody to live under a dictatorship. So basically you just got to big a big old middle finger onto these people. You just got to smack them like the parasite tick that they are. And Xi Jinping's head will pop like the beta males that Chinese communists are. You don't have to worry. The thing you got to worry about is that these people have it so bad over there and they don't know that they're oppressed. Like, it's just, all they know is that all of the houses suck. It's like they got concrete cinder block walls. Like they got these like nails that are sticking out in a lot of the houses, and the government uses, like, they mess up the houses permanently so they can come in and demolish the house. They're called nail houses. And they're like public bathrooms. They're like basically like squat toilets. And there's like a cesspool under there like they used to have in the like 19th century. There's no toilet paper. It's disgusting. If you fall into the cesspool, you'll probably die. You can. Babies fall into the cesspool. It stinks to high hell. It's a massive, huge pile of shit. And they're all over the place. That's all the option you got. No toilet paper. It's because they don't got no private property. Nobody owns the place. Nobody has an incentive to clean it up. When nobody owns the thing, nobody's going to be like, well, you know what? This is my pride and my joy. When you go into my bathroom, it's going to be as nice as the bathroom in my house. Is it like their bathrooms are disgusting? Like, it makes you want to vomit looking at videos of their bathrooms. They're that bad. It's like these people are just running a game on it, and it's because their society sucks so bad. It sucks so bad over there. All they do is just nerd out. They live in like a different world. And the problem with this is they created a parallel structure. This is why all these authoritarian far-right dictatorships are just destined to fail, because they prop up these parallel structures by making it suck so bad that people disconnect. Like there's this movement, what is it, Jean Jouet? Or is that, no, it's Leftover Women, right? Lying flat is what they call it. And it's like people gave up. Like they don't want to contribute to the system. So they just do the bare minimum that they can get away with without being punished. And then, so it's causing big problem there because the dudes are hella beta males over there. Like they had that one child policy, and then like people are just like, they play video games all the time because the government sucks so bad that the guys are like really like pussies with women. So like the American dudes, like everybody loves the American dudes. Like, see, this is why they hate us so much, dude. Because like when we're over there, like all the girls are like, yeah, oh, like you got two like girls under each arm, and like chicks are like fighting for you. And then their dudes are like playing video games, like, Hi, my name is So-so. Would you go on a date with me? And so it's like they can't handle this shit. They can't handle this shit because they commies. Commies ain't got no private property, dude. It's like you're fucking piss poor, dude. You ain't got shit. That's what these people are. And then like, it's like when they come over here, they get all this access to this private property, right? Like the Chinese Nazi party. So all the foreign exchange students that you see coming over here, they're all like children of the Chinese Nazi party. They're like second generation rich. So in communist countries, you know, you're supposed to not have private property. You're not supposed to have second generation rich. There's not supposed to be any people living high on the hog while everybody else is living in squalor. That's absolutely not communism at all. But they've got private property, and so they're going around buying up all the real estate, any sort of stuff that they can buy up that's high value, cryptocurrency, anything. They will swoop it up, and they're buying up, like they bought up half of Vancouver, Canada. They've pushed most of the residents in Vancouver to Canada out to the outskirts of the city because nobody can afford to live there anymore, and the houses are just empty. It destroys our economy, and Democrats are all about it. They don't want you to do anything to stop this stuff because they're all making money hand over fist. I'm done talking about these Chinese Nazi punk scum. Throw a donation over at rsscommentary.com for my graduate degree program so that you can help me fight China. I'm making an AI propaganda detector so that we can detect Chinese state propaganda. What else do we have? We got 2 more? Damn. This next article from Hacker News: with COVID-19, World Health Organization's fall from grace is finally... Oh, wait. Damn. Sorry. No. Hit like and subscribe! Sorry. Hit the wrong button there. Here in this next article from Hacker News: with COVID-19, World Health Organization's fall from grace is complete. This is coming at you from The Wire. In complete contrast to its founding ideals, the WHO is now captured by wealthy countries and corporations at cost of millions of poor globally. So I would go as far as to say it's controlled by China. If you look at the COVID response, I covered the World Health Organization a lot. If you want to look at some of my stuff that says WHO or World Health Organization on YouTube, you'll see my scathing criticism of the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization, if you might remember them, if you're old enough, they used to put out fake research articles that marijuana was a dangerous gateway drug. They were propped up as a propaganda agency during the drug war eras because it was convenient. We put in most of the money. We controlled the WHO. And then eventually China started putting in about 1/10 that we were putting in. And then the next country put in about 1/10 of that. And so China, they didn't want to have America be like a hegemony. So they started giving China all this say. And China infiltrated them with all their doctors that they've been. So like in China, they don't have this problem when they have failed public education systems where the black people in the hood are like really rude and disrespectful, trying to be like popularizing toxic hip hop and misogynist culture with like twerking, doing drugs, partying, getting in gangs, fighting, so you can make some cool rap hip hop video. And so in China, like their kids are really like, they actually do their homework, and so they're kicking our ass. So they have a lot more, their size is a lot bigger. So they have a lot more people that are participating in the STEM community because China is using this as a method to do non-conventional warfare against the West. They want to take the US out as the world superpower. They want to be the hegemony in the South Asia Pacific. They want to take over the South China Seas. They want to take land from everyone. They want to encroach on the Philippines territorial waters. They want to take all the fish. They want to take all the resources and use it, make sure that the Chinese Nazi Party has complete control over China into the near future. And people just, they don't know about this stuff. So like they think the WHO is just this, it's like this ideal thing. They're like, no, it's, the organizations are perfect. Like the state's not the bad guy. No, the bad guys are the white supremacists, the racist, the sexist people. These are the bad guys. No, it's not the communists. No, they don't like money. I don't like money either. No, the bad guys are the people who fight the communists. It's those racist white conservatives in those poor red rural states who are pressing the minorities in the big Democrat-run cities. That's why. Because they don't live there. If they lived there, then they would be able to stick up for themselves. But because they don't, they're an easy straw man. There's just a boogeyman, a scapegoat. There's nothing that we can do about it. You know, they don't want to admit the public education system's a complete belly flop. They just screwed everybody over. And instead, they want to say it's systemic racism, that the charter schools are the bad guys. They're the charter schools are taking away from these pristine, completely innocent, ultra productive public schools in the failed Democrat-run cities, the ones where you might get shot at the school, you might get jumped. You don't really want to send your kids walking through those neighborhoods. You should feel lucky you didn't have to go to school there. They can't admit that. So instead, they have to blame the white people. It's systemic racism. So the same goes with the WHO. They think, no, the WHO, no, that could never do anything wrong. No. They are the world's authority. They're the world's authority. It says World Health Organization. That means that they got cred. That means they'd never do anybody wrong. And most of the people are not old enough or didn't pay any sort of attention, and they have no idea that the WHO's been putting out fake research articles about marijuana being a dangerous gateway drug since I was a little kid. Like, of course these people don't have any sort of reputability at all. They've always been a really, really, really bad organization. But China, they got all their people in. And then they've been doing this gain of function research with these bat coronaviruses over there, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, with that bat lady. And then they engineered COVID as a bioweapon using genes from HIV. And this is why COVID turns up positive as a false positive for HIV on a test. And then they distributed the COVID bioweapon at a marathon in Wuhan in September of 2020. So it spread internationally from this event. And then from there, they prevented us from reacting to it. They gave us false information that the virus did not spread from person to person. They amped up fear through staging fumigation scenes, welding people into apartment complexes, and building a massive, gigantic, huge pandemic hospital overnight as if millions and millions of people are about to die the next month. Then they prevented us from mitigating the spread of the disease, which I think was just kind of bunk and stupid. You know, anybody who studied enough statistics, they immediately would look at this and they would say, wait a minute, you're like elongating, you're saying that you're going to like stop millions of people from dying by like stopping the spread, like flattening the curve. It's not really actually the way that it works. Actually, like infection rates don't equal death rates. There's different strands of viruses. Some of them are more deadly than the others. The ones that are not as deadly functions as natural vaccines. So the countries that had the lowest death rates, like Thailand, they had prior exposure to coronaviruses. So wearing a mask obviously did not lower their death rate because their death rate was low because they didn't wear a mask. Right. See, but like these things go out the window though, because there's some droplets, right? You got to wear the mask to block the droplets, right? And then like Dr. Fauci, before this whole thing happened, he said like, no, the masks are like a false sense of security. It's not going to help you. And then later, whenever the Democrats chose that this was going to be their party platform, then he then flip-flop Fauci, then said, no, we do want to wear the masks. Like, oh, never mind about the psychological impacts on the children or the increase in periodontal disease or other diseases from the unsanitary reusable masks. Never mind the pollution from it. We have to protect the old people because most of the people who are dying are old people and overweight people. So then we have to strap masks on all of the healthy people. We got to make it so that we lower our birth rate because in order to save the old and fat people, we need to prevent healthy young people from being born, right? Because that makes a lot of sense, right? We're in clown world. Everything is like that. So obviously, there aren't going to be too many people that you can go up into and say, hey, should we prevent babies from being born to save old and fat people from dying? Like, okay, well, obviously, this is a political question because the only reason why we're even alive is because a bunch of people died from getting diseases and we evolved an immune system. You'll notice you are not going to find any animals that evolved a mask. You will find that all of the animals evolved an immune system. You have to ask yourself this. And the reason for it is because you can't eat with a mask on. And if you could, it would get a bunch of bacteria in it. And then you would get parasites. And then you would probably die because that mask was unsanitary. You know, evolution tends to follow the path of least parasites. So, whether or not you think we should overreact and try to save old and fat people at the sake of the young people, it's a political issue. It's how you want to run society. By definition, it's how you want to run society. So the Republicans say, no, survival of the fittest. If you need to save yourself, you need to look at the information yourself. You need to go to your own doctor. You need to talk to your doctor, get advice from someone who knows you and your medical condition. And you need to understand that information. You need to make the best decisions based on your health And that's going to be the best way to save you. And then the Democrats say, no, the state is the best organization to run society. The state knows better than you. You don't know what you're doing because you're not a scientist. You're a science denier. You don't think that we should wear a mask. You're a science denier. You're like Dr. Fauci. You're like, oh, which Dr. Fauci? No, the 2019 Dr. Fauci. You're like the 2019 Dr. Fauci. You're like, really? So why is the 2020 Fauci any different? Well, it's because the guy's a Democrat shill. Only 6% of scientists vote for Republicans. Science has turned into a monoculture, and it's because of cancel culture. It's because of the demonization of white people as racist, as white nationalists, as these evil people. And it's caused them to go insane. They cancel people all the time. Like, for instance, I'm a computer programmer. I wrote fastest way to print an integer. Came up with some fancy math algorithm for it. And so I got an invite to speak at this conference in Germany. It's an embedded development conference. And then I was on the internet, and the head of the NVIDIA Corporation then tweeted out something that like women are making more money than men nowadays. So I tweeted at her. I said, yeah, that's great. Have you ever had some feminist come try to screw your life over before? And then all of this woman just like crew just pounced on me on Twitter. And then trying to reply to these people, like there was this 9 replies guy that like posted my stuff all over the internet. There was like 140,000 people saw this interaction with me and the NVIDIA head. And then after that, these people wouldn't talk to me anymore. These embedded people, they were like, this guy's toxic. It's like, I didn't do anything. All I did was just like ask the woman, like how does feminism help black people? How does feminism help black men? How does that help them? Right? They're, oh, well, feminism, it makes it so that we attack misogynists. Like, well, who's the misogynist? Oh, well, the black guys are the misogynists. The Muslims are the misogynists. The black guys in the hood, sorry. Like the hood people who like treat women like hoes. Like those people are misogynists. So are the Muslims. The Muslims are misogynists. Right? So like, what do? You cancel the misogynists and the racists. Okay. So the black people in the hood are the misogynists. So you just got rid of the black people, and you said then that you can't be racist. So you just got rid of the black people. So now it makes the white people who instigated this are now the racist people. So now you got to get rid of them. Okay. What's the next step? What happens after this? Oh, China takes over. Right. You know, you got to watch out there. Like we have been under bombardment from non-conventional warfare from the Chinese military in the form of fentanyl smuggled through cartels, in the form of psychological warfare operations, hyper-personalized psychological warfare operations using big data collected both legally and illegally. And then, so once the Chinese government is able to like get their hands on these little levelers of power, it's like it's like you might like a lot of this stuff might just be like the feminists are just going crazy, like they're like hitting the wall, they're like, you know, getting past their 30s and the guys don't want to date them anymore. They got all the money, but they can't have babies no more. And all the guys that they thought that they would be able to hook up with, they now are chasing the younger women, and they think that they're boring and old and fat and wouldn't want to tap that anymore. And so these people are definitely going crazy. They're like having a midlife crisis, right? And then you got the feminist beta males. They're like all thought that like they could just say, as you wish, and do everything that the women said. It's just like chop off their penis saying, yes, ma'am, to everything. And then like giving them promotions, giving them everything, putting the women, all of their needs first. Then we got this epidemic of homeless men. And then the women, like two-thirds of the college degrees are being earned by women nowadays. So the women don't got nobody to date. They're looking to date up. They're looking for somebody who's like them, who has a degree like them, and there ain't no guys. The ones that are there are like total dorks, not that good looking. They got some health problems, body weight. They're totally not the kind of guy that you would want to sleep with. They might have money, but they're totally lame. So everything that they were told was a bunch of bullshit. They got sold a false bill of goods. And then they start flipping out. And then what happens next? So the white feminists kicked out the white males. So the corporations run by the white feminists. And then the people who are doing the best financially are the ones that are propped up by the Chinese Nazi Party. So then what happens? They stab us in the back and side with China for money. That's what happens. Because the women, they don't get it. Then all these guys they think are trash. They think the guys are trash, or they're either racist, sexist, or they're a scrub, or they're a misogynist, and they're like red pill. They're like treat women like sexual objects. Because the men that have been chasing them their entire lives are now chasing the younger women, and they're raging pissed off about it, right? And you just thought that they were like right, that like they were like oppressed, and that they were like innocent, and that it was all the guys that did it that were wrong, that caused all the problems. But no, dude, you got hoodwinked, bro. Like women are crazy, bro. Like this is par for the course for women. That's the way it works. Is the young women have the guys throwing themselves at them, so they don't have to try hard to get close to success if they're anywhere near moderately attractive. So they got life on easy mode. The guys, everything's life on hard mode. Like nobody's paying our rent in college to get down our pants. Like we got to pay for the woman's place, but for the everything for the hot college chicks, because some other dude will if you don't. And so this guy, it creates a problem where we're just wide open for China jacking our stuff, because they have unlimited access to our economy. They have access to direct access to put propaganda in front of your face through advertisements from Chinese Nazi Party companies on social media, where they're using their hyper-personalized, next-gen, non-conventional warfare, psychological war operations. And it's like we're neutered. It's like they don't care about the rules. They don't care about the consequences, because they think they're going to win, and that might makes right. And it's like we're watching this stuff unfold in slow motion, watching our families die off in front of us through low birth rate, watching the Mexicans replace our country. It's turning into Mexico down there on the southern border. Like a third of LA is from Mexico. They don't even speak English. And then they're like, oh, no, it's fine. No, it's fine. You just keep bringing in Latinos. The kids vote blue no matter who. And then it's like, then it pushes our people out of these big cities, because it jacks up the rent so high that our people can't even afford to live there. It's like a perfect storm between the Chinese and the Mexicans and the Latinos. And now we got flood of Africans coming in along the southern border for the Biden-Harris immigration freeze. They're basically just handing over the southern border to the cartels, funneling enough fentanyl to kill everybody that you ever met. I got to move on to a different article. This is pissing me off. Hey, let's talk about something awesome. Somebody who doesn't suck. In this next article from Fox News, Larry Elder takes GOP fundraising lead in California recall race. Hit like and subscribe! conservative radio show host Larry Elder, who is the man, has surged to the lead in Republican fundraising efforts in his campaign to replace Governor Gavin Newsom, the rich, spoiled brat, in the recall election. Quote, the numbers announced by my campaign today solidify my candidacy to defeat Gavin Newsom, the scumbag Democrat, in upcoming recall election. And quote, Elder said in a statement Thursday, quote, Californians have shown up and believe in our mission to recall Newsom and elect me in his place. Newsom can raise an unlimited number of funds for his election. Therefore, every single donation to my campaign counts, whether small or large, end quote. He has raised $4.5 million for his campaign in just 19 days, eclipsing Republican rivals. Elder has averaged $235,000 in funds each day since he entered the race on July 12th, according to campaign filings. He ended this month of July with $2.3 million of funds after covering other expenses. The recall election will be held on September 14th. I'm going to let you read the rest of that. If you want to get links to these articles, you can find it at rsscommentary.com/issue 137 for this show, where you can find links to our social media account, watch the videos, and find links to chat, or you can leave comments in the chat down at the bottom. In this next article from NPR, Mexico's suit against U.S. gun companies may seek more than a court win. The Mexican government sued U.S. gun makers and distributors in federal court for damages caused by illicit firearms. Experts say it's a long shot, but the move could ramp up pressure on the United States. So let me get this straight. So a foreign government is trying to sue us in order to take away our constitutional rights to bear arms. Well, Mexico is controlled by cartels. I'm going to have to say they're good neighbors. I don't got nothing bad to say about the Mexicans. I think they're great people. But they are controlled by cartels. It is a fact. It has been an all-out war out there on the southern border. Down there, they have the cartels are making billions of dollars smuggling humans across the border under this Democrat immigration freeze, where the cartels have basically taken over the southern border. They're mass murdering migrants along the border. They've smuggled in enough fentanyl to kill every person that you've ever met. Mexico City hitmen from Jalisco New Generation Cartel rolled into swanky Mexico City neighborhood on the morning of June 26, 2020, planning to assassinate the capital's police chief. They carried 3 Beretta 50mm sniper rifles, a Smith & Wesson 9mm pistol, and a 5.56 caliber carbine, a Ruger 5.56 caliber rifle, and a Colt 5.56 millimeter caliber carbine. After a terrifying shootout, 2 police officers and a civilian were killed. Police chief was wounded, and a drug cartel once again showed that it's armed like special forces. So if you're unfamiliar with the laws in Mexico, which I can't blame you if you aren't, they banned guns in Mexico. So the reason why they have all this terrorist activity is because the people don't have no guns. They got disarmored. They neutered the balls off the people, and so they can't protect themselves. And so the cartels took over. So what are they saying? That we got First Amendment or Second Amendment rights here, and that these are bad, and we shouldn't have these? It's like, okay, well, every single time I hear from this Mexican president, it's all, like, I like this guy. Like, I don't have anything bad to say about this guy. I think this is just kind of one of these, like, fruitcake, liberal Latino things where they're, like, siding too much with the liberals. Like, nah, man. Nah, dude. Like, the reason why you got so much cartel violence is because you don't got no guns. If you had your own guns, you wouldn't have these cartel problems. It'd be like the United States, where, like, yeah, sure, there's some gangbangers, but, like, we got way more guns than them, and there's way more than us, and so we'll just fuck them up, you know? Like, we can't do shit because they chop their balls off. I think this is stupid. NPR's stupid. I'm moving on, man. Is that it? Well, it appears as if that is it. Where is it? Sorry. I don't know where my exit scene is. I mean, oh yeah, like, share, subscribe. Sorry. Sorry about that. Hey, that's it for this show. Thank you for tuning in to RSS Commentary on Saturday, August 7th, 2021. Again, I am the captain, Cale McCollough, and don't forget to smash that subscribe and like button. Share this video and drop comments down the below so that we can feed this algorithm to get this message pushed out to as many people as possible. And don't forget to keep your culture, build it, make sure that you aren't dependent on these Democrats who control these big cities, who want to cancel you and dominate you and demonize you and make you all that is bad. If you like this content, there's also some more content over here on these videos. You might like these videos, and check out our channel over here on YouTube. And until then, as I say every time, thanks for tuning in, and farewell, sayonara, aloha, and Godspeed in your journeys, friend.